Amritanandamayi, part 6 of Great Female Spiritual Gurus. Hello, this is Shows of Infinity with the last video in the series of the Great Female Spiritual Gurus. Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, or Amritanandamayi, the nectar of bliss. I don't know why people always need these fancy names, but it's traditional India, so in India it's fine. One of you asked me to include her in this series, so there you are. Your wish is my command. I am a bit in two minds about her, and I wasn't originally planning to include her in this series because of that. Definitely she is the real deal. And she has something. Anyone who can hug thousands of people in a row and not be totally drained has something. She really has unending, unconditional love going on. She has a lot of followers all over the world, especially in Europe, and they donate like crazy. And she does something with this money. She doesn't hoard it all for herself like some other gurus I can think of, but she really does something for the benefit of the community down there in Kerala. She builds hospitals and orphanages and whatnot. Embracing the World, her organization is called. And she's famous for traveling all over the world and giving hugs to enormous crowds, and there's music and food for everyone. Quite nice. I went to one of these happenings a long time ago, and while I was queuing, I thought, okay, nothing is worth standing for hours like this in a queue. But when it was my turn, there was something about this hug. It was really something, and then I thought, okay, it was worth it. It is a very quick affair, only a few seconds. You pushed into her embrace and then pulled out again, kind of. But still, it was worth it. And she has something. She really has an aura of unconditional love and acceptance around her. So she's even revered as a saint, as an avatar in India by some people. But what is actually her teaching? Back then, her teaching was mostly that you should stop thinking, which is a bit ridiculous because, yeah, if that was so easy, people would do it, I guess. It's not so easy to just stop thinking. Of course, once your thinking has stopped, like in every enlightened person thinking has stopped. So it's easy to recommend it from that vantage point, but you cannot just tell people stop thinking. Her main teaching is karma yoga, very similar to Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Their main teaching was karma yoga. Karma yoga is to give without expecting a return, without expecting a reward. Just do what is best for everyone. Be a servitor of the divine consciousness and the whole world and the whole of humanity. That is very hard. It's very hard to do that without any reward or expectation of reward, or expectation of someone patting on your back and saying, okay, well done. If you need any appreciation for this, it's all for naught. You really have to give without expecting anything or needing anything in return. This is tough, but it's a good training, of course, especially in the world nowadays where narcissism runs rampant. So this part is a good teaching, and she leads by example. Now, about 22 years ago, when I explored Kerala, the southwest of India, I went to her ashram, her main ashram, Amritanandamayi. It is located on a kind of island, so you had to go there by boat. Nowadays I think there's a bridge, I'm not sure. But back then you had to cross over by boat, a bit like on the way to Avalon, I felt. And there were these huge pink looming towers jutting out of the jungle. And I found out later that this is where all the disciples lived or stayed for a while. And the place was crowded. There were thousands of people who all acted in a very strange way. There were some rules, obviously, of how to interact or not interact with each other, but it felt quite artificial and weird. So I checked in and I got a bunk bed, and then I went to one of these satsangs where she actually explained stuff. And I think, if I remember well, she spoke in Malayalam, which is the language of Kerala, a bit similar to Tamil, and then it was translated into English. And the main message of that talk that evening was that you shouldn't think. Most of the other stuff was the usual Indian Vedantic. So I was a bit disappointed after I already had this hugging experience that her talk was so unrelated to reality somehow. But that was not the reason why I left on the same day. I didn't spend a single night there, because the whole setup felt really, really weird. The whole place felt horrible energetically. It was also dirty, like you cannot imagine. And the people just felt sick somehow, physically and psychologically sick. So I'm not sure what kind of people she attracts nowadays, or all over the world back then even, but there at the main ashram back then, it was unbearable to me. One big lunatic asylum, which is of course a good image of the whole world, but still it was very clearly visible there. And looking back now, I know that a crowd of victims will always attract predators. So I don't know who organizes the ashram for her and her stuff, but anyway, there are probably some narcissists or psychopaths in there as well, because that's what happens if you have a lot of victims running around. It might be totally different today. Who knows? Maybe she got it under control now. But for me back then, my enthusiasm and interest got squashed in one day, and I was never interested in anything about her and from her again. I don't doubt and never doubted that she has something special going on. And obviously she helps many people in the surrounding villages of Amritanandamayi, where she's from also. But I just had a look on the website, and that there's a quote here by the Amma. When the deep spiritual yearning of the disciple basks in the effulgence of the Guru's grace, an ashram is born. There one grows in peace and harmony. Well, if you as a guru have the delusion that people bask in your effulgence, then you have a problem, an ego problem. It is true, of course, if a lot of people come together who have the delusion that they're basking in the effulgence of the master or the mistress, and she has the same delusion, they all have the same delusion, then an ashram is born. That's true. But peace and harmony is not what I witnessed in this ashram 22 years ago. Let's look at some other very famous quotes. True happiness is when the love that is within us finds expression in external activities. That's true. That's basically karma yoga. If you don't want any reward for it or appreciation, then religion is the secret of life. It teaches us to love, to serve, to forgive, to endure, and to interact with our brothers and sisters with empathy and compassion. And here, this is the solution, this is the crux of the whole thing, that many searchers, many seekers, and also many gurus, they confuse religion with spirituality. They're not the same thing. And while empathy and compassion are a good thing, or can be a good thing, if you don't suffer from helper complex and codependency, it's definitely no one's business to forgive someone else. You can forgive yourself, but not someone else. It's not your place. In Jeffrey Martin's location 3 is the one of religion. So many spiritual masters and mistresses are actually religious leaders, like many Sufis, for example. And to that I can only answer in Hugh Laurie's words as Dr. House. If you speak to God, it's called religion. If God speaks to you, it's called psychosis. Religion is always a distraction. Religion is always a patch, like a medicine or a tranquilizer. It's calming you down. On the spiritual path to enlightenment, the last thing you need is something that calms you down. You need to explode, you need to implode. You don't need anything or anyone who catches you when you fall. Just let yourself fall. And then later, when enlightenment has happened to you, can speak about compassion and love and stuff. But until then, also all these things like compassion and love, they're also easily distractions and compensations and addictions. They are very likely not karma yoga, but acting out your codependency personality disorder based on your childhood trauma. And praying to someone or worshipping someone will not solve this trauma. So as you can plainly see, this is the first of the videos on great female spiritual enlightened gurus that is a bit critical, but it has to be done because it has to be clear that there's a difference between spirituality and religion. In spirituality, you will not get anywhere by worship and prayer. That is religion, and religion is a whole different animal with a whole different goal and whole different rules. And if you want that, it's fine. There's nothing bad about it, but it's not enlightenment, it's not spirituality, it's not awakening. It's another form of deep sleep. You're probably on this path because you want to wake up from the nightmare of this life, and you're welcome to try the religious path. I recommend to you to wake up from the dream state. Don't pray for nicer dreams, wake up from the dream state. And in my humble experience, religion is still part of the dream state. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe. Join me on Patreon if you like. There's more content on Patreon. Thank you to all my Patreons, and see you soon.